How much analysis do you do on your newsletters? What's worked, what's not worked? Do you review content? Is there learnings you get out of it?
So must reads more specifically, I know how many clicks they get, but also I know that if I put a story at number one, the first one,
Yeah,
it's anchoring bias and more people click on it. So
yeah,
often I'll put my own newsletter from leaders letters up there because I know it get most clicks. So I do game it a little bit. And as I used to run a growth department, if I'm not doing it, I'm doing myself a disjustice.
yeah.
Um, but I'm like positively obsessed about the performance of it. So if it drops or the open rate tanks, I either know that it's an email delivery problem, or I know that I've put something that a lot of people disagree with, or the subject line's bad, basically.
Yeah.
Um, but also that I know not to obsess over it, as in not badly obsess over it, because if I was doing it and paying for growth,
Yeah.
it's hard and expensive. And even the serious media companies are spending a lot of money on it at the moment, and especially on paid performance. So I do look at numbers, open rates, click throughs, um, and then I look at sub rates, so subscription rates. So more recently, it's gone, it's rocket ship. It's gone up to the right, almost on both newsletters, but more specifically on must reads. And what's really interesting is I haven't really done much to push it, other than I've tried to brand it a little bit more, and that's the activity I've tried to do.
How much of that goes down to, you mentioned it earlier, and I know we've spoken about this offline. How much of that is based upon you changing platform to Beehive?
So I think there's two sides of it. There's the delivery aspect. I was having problems with Substack, and for anyone who's unfamiliar with newsletters, basically you're only as good as the platform you send it via.
Yeah.
The IP address, if it's warm, so basically means if loads of other people are on it and it's getting opened a lot, and all the signals that your audience are given to those platforms, which basically means if people are opening it and reading it, it's great. If they're not, the likelihood is you'll be filtered into other or promotion or social on Gmail or other on Outlook.
Yeah.
And then Yahoo, for instance, they'll overly aggressive in putting you into spam or into junk if a lower proportion of people open it. So you have to
Yeah.
be really careful. So that was one side of moving. The other side was Substack are great, as in they're trying to be more than a newsletter platform, which is great. But then they're tailoring to the 1%, so the top
Yeah.
1% as opposed to the rest of us. And despite being on Substack since they launched, it wasn't really being a product that was improving for everyone. It was just improving for the 1%. So that's why I decided to move. And also, the analytics were pretty stagnant on it, and I wasn't really growing. But as soon as I moved to Beehive, it grew. The delivery was much better. Um,
Okay.
and again, that's just based on how the platform's built and how great Beehive have been in understanding the 99% problem as opposed to the 1%,
And what,
creator problem.
because it's a paid for platform, isn't it? Or they have a freebie as
So
well.
I'm a freebie to give them some brand prop. I'm a freebie, but it you can do it for free, £49 or £69 a month, and it scales. So the more audience you have, the different scale it becomes. So the price increases, and then
Yeah.
depending on the price, depends on the features you get.
Okay. So you're happy with Beehive?
Yeah, so like, I could give some tips for people that want to listen. So if you're really thinking of becoming a newsletter um, creator or curator, it's
Yeah.
really focusing on brand, like make the newsletter stand out, because basically you're just a program on live TV. You're just another program, so you have to give people a reason to tune in. So
Yeah.
whether that's like the branding of your newsletter, that you have a voice, that you're opinionated, and things that you do try or you don't want people to try out, be something more, be like consistent. The amount of people that tell me that consistency is the reason why they stick with me is like they know it's coming every Friday morning. So the way I explain
Yeah.
it to people is be that live sporting event that you actually tune in for on TV, or that like live TV show that you don't want to watch 8 hours later. It's the live performance, and just be basically be confident and really understand your community. So if you've got an audience and you want to turn it into something more, be really confident in who you are and what you're about and stick to
Yeah.
it. you can experiment, but the further away that you become, the harder it is for them to stick with you. And you'll find your 1 or 10, 100 or 1,000 fans or super fans that devour everything you put together. So they're the sort of the top tips I'd give on on that sort of side.
I think that consistency one is killer. Like it's amazing how many, and I am as guilty of this as anyone. Like I look back at some of the projects. I think we might have talked about this before. Like some of the projects I started in the past, and where they would be now, had I have just like carried on. But you're right. You think that you're not. We all think we're special, and we all think that we're not going to be like falling for this consistency and regularity, but we do, and it almost becomes like a muscle memory. I know that there's two emails I get on a Friday morning at 7:30, and you're one of them. And shout out to the upshot, who's the other one. But my mind now knows that they're coming every Friday, and I've even got to the point where I don't know, 'cause I've got kids, I'm up early and whatever, and I'll be looking at my phone waiting for it to come in, which is insane, really, when you think about it. But I do.
When I studied, right, and part of the stuff that I do outside of the newsletters and some of the failed podcasts that I've had is some of the stuff that I've done is really over analyze how creators work and why they deliver it. And there's some amazing media companies that overthink it and have gone to like lengths of testing. So, I run a marketing department that had 25 million people in the database, and sending an email, and you have to be meticulous about when you sent it and the language you use, etc. So the morning brew, the skim, the hustle, these are all like daily emails, or 4 to 5 times a week emails,
Mm,
and they want to be the first thing that you think of when you're on the toilet in the morning. It's like
yeah,
their section of the time that they want. And how the Chinese apps are built is all based on time. So the reason why I deliver at 7:30 is most people that are going to work will be on the commute probably, or
yeah,
parents have that time window where they can do the stuff with the kids and then have their own slot of time.
yeah.
And the reason why I say it's in 5 minutes is because most people, the max time that they have doing something without being interrupted is at around 5 minutes. So mine's
So
engineered to a point.
did you test different times then? Have you looked at that?
So I've done midnight, Friday straight away, like the first thing, midnight, because I've got US, Australia, and the UK are my primary areas.
Yeah,
So I did midnight, and that bumped up in performance. But then the UK, it was getting lost in the UK, which is primarily my audience. I've
yeah.
tested 6 and 6:30 a.m., 7:30, and then 10. And 7:30 is probably there's a bit of bias in there, but 7:30 is the best performing.
Can you not segment based upon location?
You can and you can't. Certain tools will do it for free, others won't.
Okay,
Most of the newsletter ones won't do it without you paying. Or
okay.
you can do you if you're clever, you can set up A/B or ABC tests and send it
Yeah,
at
yeah,
certain times. But for me, if it is as good as I'd hoped it to be, then people will read it regardless of where they are.